The Billionaire's Christmas Eve flight. The twins he never knew start with a fast-paced shot of a busy airport, contrasting a weary single mother with a cold, sharp businessman. Stop! Before we start, tell us where you're watching from in the comments below. When this story ends, don't forget to rate it 0 to 10. And hit that subscribe button for more unforgettable stories. Now, sit back and let the journey begin. Chapter 1. The Fateful Encounter. The Miami International Airport hummed with the frantic energy of Christmas Eve. Elena Reyes, 26, adjusted the strap of her bag, watching her 2.5-year-old twins, Leo and Stella, darting between the boarding lounge seats. Her wavy brown hair, pulled into a tired ponytail, framed a face marked by determination and a hint of suppressed longing. "Leo, don't stray too far," she murmured softly. "Stella, sweetheart, come here." At 26, Elena had mastered the roles of mother, pediatric nurse, and fortress. Her green eyes, inherited from her grandmother, shone with exhaustion and excitement. A silver bracelet with 2 tiny hearts, engraved with her children's names, was on her wrist. This was the first time she was taking the twins to Tampa Bay to meet her mother's family, and the first time she'd set foot in that city since. He left. "Flight AA 412 to Tampa, immediate boarding at gate C21, announced the speaker. Elena quickly gathered the small backpacks and took a hand of each child. The twins were a perfect mix of her and someone no longer in their lives. Leo had her mischievous smile, but his father's dark eyes. Stella had her wild curls, but a determined gaze Elena recognized from someone else. As Elena walked towards the plane, she couldn't imagine that just meters away, in first class, sat Ethan Vance. At 37, Ethan was completely transformed. Gone was the young startup employee. Now, he wore a flawless charcoal suit and Italian leather shoes. His dark brown eyes, the same ones his children unknowingly inherited, held a calculated coldness, perfected over 3 years of million-dollar negotiations. Ethan had built a tech empire in New York and Miami, but lately, he felt a void no success could fill. Christmas always stirred up memories he preferred to bury, especially when he thought about the city where he left his youth, and her. Elena was settling the twins in economy, seat 23A, B, and C. At that moment, by a twist of fate, Ethan rose from his first-class seat to grab something overhead. His eyes met those of the brown-haired woman trying to manage 2 small children. Time stopped. Elena felt the floor drop. It was him, Ethan. So different, so elegant, so powerful, so unattainable. Ethan, too, was frozen. The woman he had loved, the one he lost to his pride and ambition, was there, but not alone. There were 2 children, not more than 3 years old. Leo's dark eyes met Ethan's, and the billionaire felt a jolt. Those eyes were identical to his own. Elena saw the realization dawn in Ethan's eyes. After 3 years of keeping this secret, destiny had decided the truth must emerge. "Hello, Ethan," she whispered, her voice cracking as Stella clung tighter to her neck. The plane finished boarding, and the doors closed. For the next 2 hours, they were trapped in the same space, with 3 years of secrets, pain, and unresolved love floating between them. Chapter 2. Confession at 30,000 feet. The plane's engine roar mingled with the tense silence. Elena finally buckled the twins in. Leo played with a toy car, oblivious to the emotional storm. Stella curiously watched the elegant man who couldn't tear his eyes away. Ethan sat back in first class, every nerve ending connected to the reality he'd just discovered. 3 years. The kids were the right age. Leo's eyes were his mirror. Mid-flight, Ethan made an unthinkable decision. He slowly walked back to economy. Can I talk to you?" Ethan asked quietly. his corporate confidence completely gone. They moved to the galley near the restrooms. The engine noise offered the necessary privacy. "Elena, Ethan began, but the words caught in his throat. "They are yours," she cut in, unable to bear the tension any longer. "Leo and Stella, they are your children, Ethan." The confirmation hit him like a physical blow. "Why?" was all he could manage. "Why didn't you tell me?" Tears welled in Elena's eyes. "I tried to find you. Your phone was disconnected. Your apartment was empty. Your mother said you moved to New York. I was 18 weeks pregnant when I stopped looking. I was 23, pregnant with twins, terrified, alone, and you had made it clear that your career was everything." Ethan felt the crushing weight of guilt. "My God, Elena, I missed 3 years of their lives, their first words, their first steps." "Leo said Papa before he said Mama," she confessed with a sad smile. What are their names?" he asked hoarsely. "Leo Ethan Reyes," she said, watching him flinch at his own name. "And Stella Sofia Reyes. I never stopped hoping you'd come back." The flight attendant announced 30 minutes until landing in Tampa. Time was running out. "Elena, I've changed. I have money now. Power. I can give them everything they need." "What they need is their father," she interrupted. "Not your money." The plane began its descent, and with it, the final defenses they had built around their hearts. Quick engagement rake. If you were Ethan, knowing you missed the first 3 years, what is the first practical thing you would do to earn Elena's trust back? Comment your strategy. Chapter 3. Where the heart is, Elena walked slowly through the Tampa terminal, carrying Stella as Leo clung to her coat. A few feet behind, Ethan followed, his determination battling a sudden, overwhelming fear. His wealth felt utterly meaningless. "Elena, wait!" he called out at baggage claim. Can I meet them?" he asked, his voice barely a whisper. The millionaire used to commanding boardrooms felt like a clumsy teenager. Elena looked at her children, then at him. 3 years of resentment fought against the deep desire for her children to know their father. She finally nodded. They moved to a quiet seating area. "Stella, Leo," Elena began softly. "This gentleman he is your daddy." Stella tilted her head, studying Ethan with the intensity of a scientist. Leo clung tighter to Elena, but didn't look away. "My daddy?" Stella finally asked, her innocent curiosity breaking Ethan's heart. "Where have you been?" Leo asked, with the brutal honesty of a 2-year-old. "I've been working far away," Ethan finally replied. "But I'm here now. If your mommy lets me, I'd like to spend time with you." Stella slid off Elena's lap and walked shyly toward Ethan. She extended a small hand. "Do you have toys?" she asked with a mischievous smile. Ethan laughed for the first time in ages. "I don't have toys now, but we can buy some together, okay?" Leo, encouraged, also edged closer. "Do you know how to play soccer?" "A little," Ethan admitted. "We have to call Abuela Sofia," Elena murmured. "Where are you staying?" Ethan asked. "With my grandmother, in the Ybor City district. It's a small but cozy house." "I'm staying at my grandmother's place too," he said. "She lives near the waterfront. She's alone since my grandfather passed last year." "I'm sorry about your grandfather," Elena murmured. "There are so many things we don't know about each other. But I'd like to change that if you'll let me." Stella, who had been playing with the buttons on Ethan's suit, suddenly hugged him. Ethan stood still for a second, overwhelmed, before gently returning the hug. "You smell nice," Stella declared. "Do you want me to drive you to your great-grandmother's house? I have a car here," Ethan offered. Elena hesitated. Accepting his help meant crossing a line. "You don't have to. I want to," he interrupted. "Please, let me do this. Let me start being their father in some way." Looking at her children's hopeful eyes and the genuine vulnerability in Ethan's expression, Elena nodded. "Okay, but only as far as Abuela's house." As they left the airport, Stella holding Ethan's hand, and Leo scampering between the two adults, Elena wondered if she was opening a door she wouldn't be able to close again. Chapter 4. The Matriarch's Scrutiny. The black Mercedes stood out on the narrow streets of the Ybor city district. "It's here," Elena indicated, pointing to a 2-story house with wrought iron balconies and a sky-blue wooden door. "Are you coming in?" Elena asked. "Already outside with Stella. I don't know if I should. Your grandmother doesn't know me. Abuela Sofia has been asking about the children's father for 3 years. Elena interrupted with a sad smile. I think it's time she met the answer. Before they could ring the bell, the door opened. Sofia Herrera, 78, with white hair and the same green eyes as Elena, appeared, drying her hands on a mirror. "Finally, I was starting to worry," she began, but stopped dead when she saw Ethan behind her granddaughter. "And who is this elegant gentleman?" "Abuela, this is Ethan," Elena said, taking a deep breath. "The father of Leo and Stella." The silence was profound. Sofia looked Ethan up and down, taking her time. "Good heavens," she finally muttered. "So you finally show up. Mrs. Herrera, I didn't know Elena was pregnant when I left. If I had known, the if I had knowns don't feed children or comfort them when they cry at night," Sofia retorted, with the brutal honesty of someone who has lived too long for pleasantries. "I lost 3 years of their lives, and there's no excuse for that," Ethan conceded. Sofia studied his face. "And now what? Do you come to play the long-lost daddy for the holidays and disappear again?" "No," Ethan replied firmly. "I've come to stay. Not here in Tampa, but in their lives, if you'll allow me." Stella, watching the tension, let go of Elena's hand and approached Sofia. "Yeah. He smells nice and has a big car," she announced, with the devastating logic of a small child. "Well, I suppose it's better inside than out here, making a spectacle for the neighbors," Sofia grumbled, stepping aside to let them pass. "But wipe your feet." Chapter 5. The Test of Ambition. The interior was warm and lived in. In the living room, Sofia had prepared a traditional Christmas Eve feast. Sofia sat opposite Ethan and subjected him to the most intense scrutiny he had faced in any business negotiation. "Elena told me you were a tech employee," Sofia began. "By the car and the clothes, I'd say things went well for you." "Yes, ma'am. I founded my own company. I have offices in New York, London, and Paris. And family." "Wife?" "No, I haven't. I haven't had a serious relationship since Elena." Ethan's confession surprised both Elena and Sofia. "I've been very focused on work," Ethan admitted. "And I guess I never really got over what I lost." At dinner, the twins were nestled on either side of Ethan. "Mommy works a lot," Leo observed innocently. "Sometimes she cries when she thinks we don't see her." Elena flushed deeply. Ethan felt a stab of guilt. While he built his empire, she worked night shifts to keep their small family afloat, crying over a man who didn't even know he had children. Later, after putting the twins to bed, Elena and Ethan found themselves alone on the small upstairs balcony, under the starry Tampa sky. "Mateo was right about the tears," Ethan said finally. "It's been hard," Elena admitted. "Harder than I imagined when I decided to do it alone." "It should never have been alone," he replied hoarsely. "They should have had their father from the start." "We can't change the past, Ethan, but we can change the future," he said, turning to her. "Elena, I want to be part of their lives, a real father." "And what about me? What about us?" she asked quietly. "I never stopped loving you, Elena. Not for a single day in these 3 years." "Love isn't enough," she whispered. "We tried that before. I was an idiot who thought professional success was more important than everything else, but now I know I was wrong. Without you, everything I've achieved means nothing." Just then, Stella's cry came from the children's room. They rushed inside to find Stella sitting up, tears in her eyes. "I had a nightmare," she sobbed. "A monster was taking Daddy away again." Ethan knelt by the bed and held her small hand. "I'm not going anywhere," he promised. "I'm here, and I'm staying." But as he comforted Stella, Ethan couldn't help but wonder if he could truly keep that promise. Chapter 6. The Uninvited Guest. The morning of Christmas Eve arrived. Elena watched Ethan in the small backyard, patiently teaching Leo and Stella to play soccer with a ball he'd bought that morning. "He looks different when he's with them," Sophia observed, joining Elena with coffee. "He looks at peace." The doorbell interrupted them. Elena opened it to find an elegant woman in her 40s, wearing a lavish coat and carrying a designer bag. "Mrs. Reyes?" the woman asked, with a refined New York accent. "I'm Veronica Santander. I was Ethan's fiancée until 3 days ago." Elena felt the ground shift. "Excuse me? Ethan and I have been dating for the last 8 months. We were going to announce our engagement after New Year's, but he suddenly canceled all our Christmas plans and disappeared." Veronica looked past Elena's shoulder and saw the scene in the yard. Ethan laughing with 2 small children who clearly shared his features. "So it's true," Veronica murmured, her composure cracking. "He has children." Ethan saw the strange car and approached the house, Leo and Stella running beside him. Seeing Veronica at the door, his face went pale. "Veronica, what are you doing here?" "I was about to ask you the same thing," she retorted, her voice charged with contained fury. "Is this the family emergency that kept you from spending Christmas with me? Your ex and the children you told me you didn't have?" "Did you tell her you didn't have children?" Elena asked, her voice dangerously calm. "It wasn't serious for me," Ethan insisted. "It was comfortable. It was what was expected of me in my position." 8 months isn't serious? Marriage plans aren't serious. "Everything changed when I saw you on the plane," Ethan pleaded. "Everything I thought I wanted became irrelevant in a second." "And what happens when we become irrelevant?" Elena challenged. "What happens when the novelty of fatherhood wears off?" "Don't call them a complication," Ethan shouted, his voice charged with cold anger. "They are my children." "Are you going to throw away everything we built together for a romantic fantasy from the past?" Veronica spat. "This is reality, Ethan. She's a small-town nurse with 2 kids. Do you really think that's compatible with your current life?" "I won't let you talk about Elena that way," Ethan roared. "Then I hope you're happy playing house while your company collapses without you," Veronica shot back. "Because that's what will happen if you abandon your real life for this fantasy." Veronica sped away, leaving devastating silence. "Isabella, I can explain everything," Ethan started. "Explain what?" Elena asked, her voice dangerously calm. "Explain that you lied when you said you hadn't had any serious relationship? Explain that you were about to commit to another woman?" "I love you," Ethan said desperately. "I never stopped loving you, and now I know that without you, everything I've achieved means nothing." "Love isn't enough," Elena repeated, the tears streaming down her face. "Children need stability, not an emotional roller coaster." She stepped back. "You can see the children whenever you want, Ethan. They are your children, and they have the right to know you. But this between us, cannot work." Ethan was left alone, wondering if he had just lost the only woman he truly loved for the second time. Chapter 7. The Choice of Sacrifice. That afternoon, Ethan sat alone in a cafe, his phone ringing relentlessly with calls from his partner, Rodrigo, and demanding investors. "We have a crisis," Rodrigo's voice said over the phone. "The contract with the German investors is crumbling. They need your presence in New York tomorrow, or they are pulling the $50 million. $50 million. The amount felt irrelevant. "Rodrigo," Ethan said, finding a sudden clarity. "I have children. I don't want to live like that anymore. You handle the meeting." "Ethan, if you don't show up tomorrow, we lose the most important contract of the company, and probably many others. Then it will be my responsibility to face the consequences." He hung up and turned off his phone. He went to his grandmother Sophia's house. "Abuela, I have to tell you something." He recounted the whole story. Sophia listened patiently, then showed him her wedding ring, a simple gold band. "Your grandfather was a simple man, a carpenter. He offered me his whole life, his complete heart, and sitjugo tuaita. Years of unconditional love," Sophia said. "Money is important, But a child who grows up without knowing his father's love will always have a void. But Elena doesn't believe me, Ethan admitted. She thinks this is just a phase. Then you have to find a way to prove it to her, Sophia said. Not with words, because words are cheap. With actions. With real sacrifice. That night, Ethan texted Elena. Tomorrow is Christmas. I know you don't want to see me. But can I at least bring gifts for Leo and Stella? I just want them to know their father is thinking of them. The answer came an hour later. Okay. But only 15 minutes. Chapter 8. The Homemade Gift. The next morning, Christmas Day, Ethan arrived at Sophia's house not in the least Mercedes, but on his grandfather's old vintage bicycle, with a bag of gifts tied to the back. They weren't expensive toys. For Leo, he had hand-carved a miniature replica of his first car. For Stella, he had created a hand-illustrated storybook, but the most important gift was for Elena. A handwritten letter, 3 pages long, confessing everything and detailing his decision. Dear Elena, it began. 3 days ago, I thought success was measured in bank figures. Everything changed the moment I saw our children on that plane. I won't promise I can change overnight, but I will promise this. I will fight for us every day for the rest of my life. He revealed his sacrifice. Yesterday, I effectively forfeited a contract that would have exponentially grown my company, a $50 million deal. Today, I have decided to move my base of operations to Tampa, not to pressure you, but to be near my children. I want to be present for Leo's soccer games, Stella's bedtime stories, and scraped knees. If you give me a chance, I won't waste it. When he left, he looked at her one last time. Read the letter. An hour later, Elena read the letter alone, tears running down her cheeks. They weren't tears of sadness, but of complex hope. 2 days after Christmas, a reporter called Elena, asking about the secret children and the impact on Ethan's collapsing company. The reality of being involved with the public figure Ethan Vance had hit hard. At the Tampa station, she found Ethan waiting for her, but he was arguing with his lawyer, Eduardo, who was urging him to set up a trust fund and keep his personal life separate. Eduardo, you're fired, Ethan said calmly, cutting him off. You have never understood who I really am. My family is not negotiable. Later that afternoon, in Sophia's garden, Elena sat across from Ethan. If you lose your company, will you blame the children and me for it? No, he answered, without hesitation. I thought money would make me happy, but it never did. It was just a distraction from the emptiness I felt, because I didn't have what I truly wanted. You, a family, a home where love was more important than achievements. He reached for her hand. I'm asking you to trust me one more time. I have put everything I built at risk, not for a romantic impulse, but because I finally understand my true priorities. Ethan, she whispered, if we do this, it has to be real. No keeping one foot in your old life. Completely real. Completely real, he agreed. Elena took a deep breath, knowing the next words would change everything. I'm telling you, we're going to try. The 4 of us. Together. Epilogue. The second chance. 6 months later, life had settled into a rhythm Elena never thought possible. Ethan fulfilled his promise. He sold his New York apartment, closed his main office, and now ran a smaller, more personalized version of his tech business from Tampa. It was a Friday afternoon in June. Elena returned from her job at Tampa General Hospital to find the scene she loved most. Ethan on the living room floor, Leo riding his back, while Stella braided his hair with pink ribbons. Suddenly, Ethan's phone rang. It was Rodrigo with an incredible offer. A massive American tech company wanted to buy out his entire former company for $50 million. I have to go back to New York immediately, Ethan said, showing a mix of shock and conflict. If I'm not there to sign personally, I lose the opportunity. Ethan, it's a fortune, Elena pleaded, fighting between the relief that he didn't want to leave and the practical worry. It's security for the children. It's just money, Elena, he replied. "And we've talked about this. Money isn't the most important thing. But $50 million isn't just money. Are you asking me to go?" he interrupted, holding her hands. "I'm telling you that if you need to go, I will understand," she said finally. "But I'm also telling you that if you go alone. The children and I are staying here." Ethan walked to the window, observing the quiet street, a simple life away from the high-rise tension of New York. After what seemed like hours, he turned back to his family. "Rodrigo," he said into the phone, "tell the Americans I'm not interested." "Ethan, are you insane? It's $50 million. I already have everything that's worth $50 million and more," Ethan replied, looking directly at Elena and his children. "I have a family that loves me. I have a real home. I have everything I was searching for without knowing I was searching for it." He hung up, pulling Elena into his arms. "The company can run perfectly from Tampa. I may never be a multi-millionaire again, but I'll be happy every day of my life." "Does that mean Daddy stays forever?" Leo asked hopefully. "Forever," Ethan confirmed. A few years later, the soft September sun filtered through the windows of the small cafe that Ethan and Elena opened together in the heart of Tampa. They called it Cafe Esperanza. Elena, 31, moved with grace between the tables. Ethan, 42, found his place behind the counter, preparing coffee with the same precision he once applied to corporate deals, but with a genuine smile. "Mommy! Daddy!" Stella's voice echoed, followed by Leo, and a tiny figure who accelerated both parents' hearts. Elena Vega Moreno, the living proof of their second chance. "Do you ever regret it?" Elena asked one night on their balcony. "All that you left behind? Regret?" Ethan looked at her with genuine awe. "I have a wife who is my best friend and great love. I have 3 extraordinary children. I have a life filled with real meaning." He kissed her. "We proved that second chances can be even more beautiful than the first, if you have the courage to fight for them." As the stars shone over Tampa, Elena Reyes and Ethan Vance held each other, knowing they had found something far more valuable than any fortune, an enduring love, a solid family, and the peace of knowing they were exactly where they needed to be. Final call to action. Would you have risked everything for love and family, or chosen the security of solitude? Let us know in the comments. Don't forget to subscribe for more compelling stories. Chapter 10. The Shadow of the Past. Setting, 1 year later. A bustling Saturday at Cafe Esperanza, Tampa. Life at Cafe Esperanza was the simple perfection Elena and Julian had fought for. It was the heart of their new life, filled with the aroma of freshly brewed coffee, the laughter of their 3 children, Leo and Stella, now 8.5, helping with napkins, and little Elena, 3, charming the customers. Julian, now 43, had found true contentment, his former restless energy channeled into perfecting his espresso shots. One quiet afternoon, as Julian was reviewing inventory, a notification popped up on his phone. An alert from an old, seldom-used corporate email account. It was a court summons delivered to his previous New York address and forwarded by a legal service. The suit was filed by Sterling Capital, a former partner of his tech company. They were challenging the terms of the company's sale, the $50 million deal Julian had walked away from, and were demanding a massive compensation, claiming Julian's abrupt departure and subsequent sale to the American firm damaged their valuation. Julian frowned. This was messy but manageable. He called his new Tampa lawyer. "Don't worry, Mr. Vance," the lawyer assured him. "It's standard litigation, a last gasp effort to claim a slice of the pie you abandoned. It will take time, but we can manage it." Julian tried to brush it off, but the suit represented more than just a legal battle. It was a shadow from the life he had so deliberately left behind, threatening the peace he had built. Chapter 11. Veronica's Return. The threat escalated the following week. Julian was outside the cafe, helping Leo practice soccer kicks in the small park across the street, when a sleek black sedan pulled up. Veronica Santander, Julian's ex-fiancée, stepped out. She was as impeccably dressed as ever, but her eyes, fixed on Julian and the children, held a chilling intensity. "Ethan," she said, her voice dripping with artificial sweetness, using his old corporate name. "You look well. Playing house suits you." Julian walked towards her, his body immediately tense. "Veronica, what do you want? I thought you were in London." "Oh, I am. But I'm also a major shareholder in Sterling Capital," she said, a cold smile touching her lips. "I see you received the lawsuit. Messy, isn't it? Especially since they're claiming you abandoned fiduciary duty due to mental instability caused by a secret family." Julian's jaw tightened. "You're behind this." "Let's just say I suggested they look closely at your hasty retreat from the negotiating table," Veronica purred, glancing disdainfully at the simple park bench where Alara often sat. "You destroyed a billion-dollar empire, Julian, for this. I only want what's fair. My investment, my reputation, and frankly, I want you to feel the pinch of what you threw away." She paused, lowering her voice, but her words were laced with poison. "You think love is enough? Wait until the litigation costs take away the savings you banked. Wait until your small-town nurse has to work double shifts to cover your legal fees. Then we'll see if your commitment is forever." Before Julian could respond, she gave a fake wave to the confused twins and slid back into the sedan, leaving Julian furious and deeply unsettled. Chapter 12. Elena's Faith. Julian didn't tell Alara about Veronica's visit immediately. He tried to handle the legal filings quietly, shielding her from the stress. But Alara, 31, was not the scared girl he had left behind. She was a wife and a mother who had fought hard for her stability. One evening, Alara found Julian awake late, hunched over his laptop, reviewing dense legal documents. "Alejandro," she said softly, using his Spanish name, sitting beside him. "What is going on? You haven't been sleeping well." Julian sighed and finally showed her the court summons and explained Veronica's involvement. "She wants to prove that our life here is a mistake," Julian said, his voice heavy with defeat. "She wants to hurt me by hurting the stability of the family I chose. If we lose this, it could wipe out our savings." Alara read the claim, the vicious accusation of mental instability because of his family. She looked at her husband, at the fear in his eyes, and realized his biggest fear wasn't losing money, but proving Veronica right. She gently closed the laptop. "Listen to me, Alejandro," she said, her green eyes blazing with the determination he had once feared, but now desperately needed. "That woman's reality is paper and contracts. Our reality is made of churros, soccer practice, and 3 children who call you Papa." She took his hands, rough from carpentry and making coffee, not signing deals. "The love we have is the stability, mi amor, not the bank account. If we fight this, we fight it together. I am a nurse. I know how to work. I know what real exhaustion is. If we have to sell the cafe and I have to take extra shifts, we will do it. But we will not let that woman prove that we were the mistake." She kissed him deeply. "Now go to sleep. Tomorrow we call the best lawyer in Tampa, and we show that woman that the man she thought she knew is dead. The man I married is strong, and his family is his shield." Julian looked at his wife, at the incredible strength in her eyes, and realized that his decision years ago was the wisest he had ever made. He had traded a billion-dollar facade for an unbreakable foundation. Audience interaction. Veronica thinks she can break them by targeting their money. What is the one thing Julian and Alara should do immediately to show Veronica that their chosen life is untouchable? Give us your best idea in the comments. Call to action. The stakes are higher than ever. Will Veronica succeed in tearing down the family Julian sacrificed everything for? Hit the subscribe button and the notification bell to follow this tense legal battle. Chapter 13. The Legal Battlefield. Setting. The ensuing months. Julian and Alara juggling family life and legal consultations. The lawsuit initiated by Sterling Capital, spearheaded by Veronica Santander, turned into a bitter, drawn-out affair. It wasn't just about money. It was a character assassination aimed at proving Julian was an irresponsible, reckless sentimentalist who deserved to lose everything. Julian and Alara immediately hired a top-tier family and corporate law firm in Tampa. The legal fees mounted quickly, forcing them to implement strict budgeting. They put off necessary repairs to their small house and started taking fewer days off from the cafe. The pressure began to show. Julian was irritable, constantly checking his phone. Alara took on extra shifts at the hospital on weekends, returning home exhausted but determined. One night, Alara found Leo and Stella, now old enough to understand whispers about Daddy's money problems, sitting quietly in the kitchen. "Mommy," Stella asked, her eyes wide with worry, "is the mean lady going to take our house?" Alara knelt, holding their small faces. "Never, my love. Nobody can take this home. This home is inside our hearts, where we love each other." She realized that the legal battle needed a personal defense, not just a corporate one. Chapter 4. The Public Defense. The climax arrived during Julian's deposition. Veronica's lawyer, a ruthless corporate shark, hammered him on the mental stability clause, using his sudden flight on Christmas Eve 3 years prior as proof of instability. "Mr. Vance," the lawyer sneered, "is it true that on December 5th, 3 years ago, you canceled a critical business meeting, boarded a commercial flight in a fit of rage, and encountered the mother of your secret children, whom you had abandoned? Does that not sound like a man incapable of rational decision-making regarding a multi-million-dollar corporation?" Julian looked the lawyer straight in the eye. He knew he couldn't win this with corporate jargon. He had to use the language of his new life. "I didn't abandon a meeting in a fit of rage," Julian stated, his voice steady. "I was fleeing a life I realized was hollow and meaningless. When I saw Elena and my children on that plane, I realized that every single thing I had built, the company, the money, the power, was irrelevant. I was a millionaire, but I was spiritually bankrupt." He continued, addressing the silent transcriber and the hidden cameras, knowing Veronica would see this. "The most rational decision I ever made was to sacrifice $50 million and the entire trajectory of my career to be present for my children. If Sterling Capital considers choosing my family over a contract to be mental instability, then I plead guilty. My priority is not, and never will be, their bottom line. It is my family's stability, which I define as being present every morning to make pancakes for my kids." His words were potent and unassailable. Chapter 15. The Final Stitch. The tide began to turn. The deposition, leaked to the media, likely by Veronica, but spinning out of her control, resonated with the public. Julian's quote became a viral meme. "I was spiritually bankrupt." But the true final blow came from Alara. She had spent weeks analyzing the old corporate files Julian had kept, looking for loopholes. One night, while reviewing a complex partnership agreement from the time Julian left, she noticed a small detail: a binding mediation clause related to shareholder disputes, requiring the involvement of Rodrigo, Julian's old partner, who was now CEO of the American Acquiring Company. Alara presented the finding to Julian and the lawyers. It was a long shot, but it gave them leverage. Julian flew to Silicon Valley. He didn't ask Rodrigo for legal help. He asked him for personal closure. "Rodrigo," Julian said, meeting his old friend who still looked stressed and unhappy in his glass tower office. "Look at your life. Look at mine. Are you happy?" Rodrigo sighed, the same question Julian had asked years ago. "Happiness is a luxury, Ethan. You know that." "No, it's a choice," Julian countered. Veronica and Sterling Capital aren't just suing me. They're trying to destroy the only real thing I've ever had. If you want to keep living the way you are, fine. But you're complicit in destroying a family that found peace. Rodrigo, seeing the unwavering peace in Julian's eyes, finally relented. He privately invoked the mediation clause, forcing a settlement between Sterling Capital and Julian's old company that minimized Julian's personal liability and forced Veronica's company to drop the damaging character claims. The fight was over. Julian was cleared, and while they did lose a small portion of their savings to legal fees, the foundation remained intact. Julian flew back to Tampa on a commercial flight, not with rage, but with profound gratitude. When he arrived home, the house was filled with the aroma of Carmen's homemade paella. Elara met him at the door, her eyes shining. "You won," she whispered. "No," Julian corrected, pulling her close. "We won. I learned my lesson. A fortune can be taken, but a family built on love is the only true unassailable asset." He kissed her, then knelt to embrace Leo, Stella, and little Elena, who had run to greet him. Meaningful conclusion. Julian and Elara's story is a powerful testament that true success is measured not by corporate ledgers, but by the quiet certainty of love. They proved that the sacrifices made for family are the only investments that yield eternal returns. The spiritual bankruptcy of the high-stakes world could never compete with the wealth found in the love of a small home. Final call to action. The battle against the past is over. Did Julian make the right choice by sacrificing money for peace? Share your thoughts. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the like button for more stories about true life priorities. Epilogue. The unassailable asset. Setting, 4 years later. A warm afternoon at Cafe Esperanza, Tampa. The intense legal battle against Sterling Capital and Veronica Santander ended in a settlement. But the real victory was never found on any legal document. Julian was cleared of the mental instability claims, and the Thorne family kept their home. 4 years later, their life had settled into a serene, rich, and deeply fulfilling rhythm. Julian, 47, stood behind the counter at Cafe Esperanza. His hair showed more gray, but his eyes radiated an unshakable contentment. He was a beloved member of the Ybor City community, his restless energy channeled into perfecting his espresso shots. Elara, 35, just finishing a short shift at the hospital, walked into the cafe. She was a wife, a mother, and a business partner with an unwavering faith. She had replaced her small original engagement ring with a simple gold band, engraved with Julian's chosen word, Prioridad. Priority. "Welcome home, Prioridad," Julian smiled, handing her a perfectly made cortado. "You too, mi amor," Elara replied. Today was a special day. The twins' birthday. Leo and Stella, 12.5, rushed in, now active middle schoolers. Leo, like Julian, was solving a complex math problem in his head, while Stella, like Elara, was passionately defending a classmate's rights. Following them was little Elena, 7, with her curly brown hair and green eyes, the joy and humor of the family condensed into one vibrant child. "Dad, I want to host a charity drive for the Children's Hospital this year," Stella announced, while Leo wanted to use his savings to buy a programming computer. Julian and Elara exchanged a delighted look. These children were not spoiled or materialistic. They were built on love, kindness, and choice. The final moment, after the cafe closed, and the children were at Abuela Sofia's, Julian and Elara returned to their small house. They sat on the old garden bench where Julian had once made his first promise. "Do you remember what Veronica said?" Julian asked, his voice low. "She said love wasn't enough, and you'd have to work double shifts to pay the legal fees. Ilara leaned into his shoulder. I remember. But we worked double shifts, not because we lost, but because we chose to open this cafe. I learned that love is enough, provided it comes with the right choices and hard work. Julian squeezed her hand. I traded a global empire for this life, and I would do it again in a heartbeat. My unassailable asset is not $50 million. It's the 4 incredible women in my life. He kissed her. It was a kiss of deep contentment, not desperation. Julian looked at his wife, at the peace in her eyes, and realized that he had become the man he always wanted to be. Not a powerful CEO, but a present father and a faithful husband. Meaningful conclusion. Julian and Ilara's story is a powerful testament that true success is measured not by corporate ledgers, but by the quiet certainty of love. They proved that the sacrifices made for family are the only investments that yield eternal returns. The spiritual bankruptcy of the high-stakes world could never compete with the wealth found in the love of a small home. Final call to action. Thank you for joining us on this journey of priorities. What is the true measure of success in your life? Share your thoughts on Julian's final choice. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the like button for more stories about true life priorities.